Buddy, you are slowly being let in from the waiting room. Looks like it's taking a little bit of time to do that. I'm the host, Carrie, drinking my coffee.
Hey, Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
Nice orange hat, Jessica.
Hello, Greg.
Hey, how you doing, Patty?
It's my rowing hat.
They will see you. Yes, water. Still admitting people. Now that's not a real background, is it, Jessica?
No, it's not. I'm trying to imagine these things.
Aaron.
Hi, Patty.
Hey, Aaron.
Hello, I'm looking at Sonoma Mountain right now.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing.
A blessing. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi,
There's
Carrie.
your daughter.
Hi, Bob.
Hey,
Hi,
Suzanne.
Patty. Hi, Julie.
Hi, y'all.
Ronnie.
Hi, Patty.
Hi, everyone.
So I'm still admitting people, but if you guys see
Julie.
the top right-hand corner, there's a speaker view or gallery view. If you hit gallery view, you can see everybody at once, which is kind of fun. That's what I'm doing.
I
More
don't see
people
gallery
entering the
view.
meeting. Seems like a bunch of you have figured out how to do virtual backgrounds really well. I still haven't tried that. I just sit in my backyard.
Hi, Olivia.
Hi.
You like my hair, my beard cut?
It's fantastic.
Oh,
I think it's really balanced.
I think we're gonna get some new styles coming out of this whole shelter in place, aren't we?
Yeah, let's see. There are a few guys with the facial hair. I think you should try it.
Has anyone been howling at 8 p.m.?
Every day.
Every day.
Most
Okay, I'll
days.
listen out for you guys tonight then.
I have finally gotten everybody admitted. So I'm sorry, I'm so dark. It's like I'm shadowed today, but that's the best I can do.
It's because you
can
have
see
that
you,
brightness
Carrie.
in the background.
I mean, I can be big. There, oh, whoa, if I like cover my camera, the light sensor works. I don't understand.
It's
Anyway.
the light behind you.
I know.
The bright plants.
I might move in the middle of this. I just might walk around my garden, and I encourage you all to do the same. This is a fun, relaxing, wake up with us kind of event. So let me just start by doing the official stuff. So my name is Carrie Winninger, and I'm the outreach lead with the Center for Environmental Inquiry at Sonoma State University. So thank you all for being on this program with us. Usually, as you probably know, our public events are done at one of the preserves. So that would either be Osborn Preserve on Sonoma Mountain in Pengrove, which is what we're talking about today, or at our Galbraith Preserve, and that's near Yorkville and Mendocino. A much larger preserve, a really special place as well. So we're really just lucky to be able to reach everybody and connect in new ways during this crazy time. And we're so appreciative you guys are along for the ride. So before I take it away, I just want to tell you a little bit about what the Center for Environmental Inquiry is and how we can be a resource to you. No matter if you're affiliated with SSU or not, you could be a student, parent, government employee, educator, member of the public, or maybe you work with an organization that is in need of environmental solutions, which is what we try and offer. So the center envisions a North Bay working together to find sustainable solutions. We invite you to get environmentally ready with us. That's what my shirt says, if you could see it in the light. Environmentally ready. So how are we going to do this? So the way we're trying to do this is we're getting this whole community of learners and problem solvers together and building that community across all sectors of society, not just the traditional sectors that you might think of, like environmental science or biology. This is really something where everybody needs to get involved. So we're going to do that by trying to give firsthand understanding of our connection with the environment. And Patty's talk is just so key to that. Her story about her connection to nature. So another way we're doing that is providing skill building experiences. And hopefully those can result in sustainable solutions. So, okay, we're talking about making people aware, prepared with knowledge, and then engaged with skills. And there's lots of ways you can get involved. Research you can engage with. There are training programs, which I believe many of you are familiar with, one of our Naturalist programs. We also have land management, waters, there's internships and student jobs. You can attend events like these, partner with us on events like these, lead events like these, as Patty knows, and access the data that we produce or create data with us, all sorts of ways to get involved. So the point is, you, everyone is important in addressing the greatest environmental challenges that humans have ever faced. So diversity is critical, an engaged society is critical, and once again, thank you. You're really important. Thank you for being here. So today, we're going to hear from one of our SSU naturalists about her personal story, about her connection to nature, and that ultimately led her to Sonoma Mountain, which is in the title of this talk. So this is one of our Learn with a Naturalist events. And what that means, it's really relaxed. Think of it like we're all outside at the education center at Osborn Preserve, sitting cross-legged in the sun at our talking circle in the grass, the bay laurel and the oak trees, right? So Patty will be our guide, but we're all very open to discussion and thoughts and questions and input along the way. So some things that you might ask her could be about the personal experiences she brings up, or her work as a naturalist. You could ask questions about the SSU Community Naturalist Program, or you could ask about her take on what's going on in the environment in general today. So really feel free to pipe up. And in that regard, I really would love to see all your faces and have your voices and microphones on, so you can get involved. But if you don't feel comfortable, it's totally fine to type in the chat box or to turn your mic or your video off, whatever works for you. And especially if there is like a distracting noise in the background, like maybe the disposal's on in the kitchen, you know, like that would be a good time to turn the mic off. But in general, we welcome everybody to be seen and heard during this event. So now that I think everybody is here, I am going to ask you all to just do one technical thing for me. So usually I'd pass around a sign-in sheet, and I can't do that. So if you could all go to the chat box and just type the name you registered under, because some of you have like usernames that don't match, and that's just my way of keeping track of registration. So just type your name. That would be really helpful for me. And I am going to check the chat before I give it away to Patty in case anyone has any technical issues. So if you do have a technical issue, you can feel free and put it in the chat box so it doesn't interrupt our conversation, like I can't hear Patty or whatever, or feel free to just say it out loud and we can handle it together. So one person said they're not sure why their name keeps flashing. Well, I don't see your name flashing, so you should be fine for everyone else. And thank you all for immediately putting your names in. Great. Okay, awesome. Well, that's all I have to say. Patty, I am just so excited to have you here. Thank you very much. I love seeing that. Is that a banjo in the background?
Yes, that is. That's my father-in-law's banjo.
Wow.
Yes, and I'll have a little story about him as we go along today.
Perfect.
Well, I'm nervous. I'm just going to put it out there. I've never done anything like this, but when they called me and asked me to do this, I was so honored, and I felt that it was the perfect avenue to tell my story and why this whole naturalist program has been so incredibly important to me. I am a firm believer that we are all naturalists. I believe that we're all born into this natural environment, and the natural environment is our first and best teacher. I grew up in Marin County. Marin County in the 60s and 70s was pretty amazing. We didn't really spend a lot of time inside. Our hills were our outside education area. That's where we played. I remember as a little girl going up into the hills, and in the springtime, the grass would get so tall. And if you lied down in the green grass, you could disappear and just lie there and look up at the blue sky. And I'd get lost in the wind of the grass flowing back and forth. There was a connection there. It kind of shaped who I was where I found peace. Another feeling I used to do all the time when I was growing up was I would climb poplar trees, Lombardy poplar trees. And I don't know if you know about Lombardy poplars, but they're not the best climbing tree. They have their stems go up like this. You can't get a good foothold, but man, when the wind blew, they would really rock. And so if you could get up tall enough in a Lombardy poplar, even though it's a non-native, and hold on to it with your whole body, the spring winds would come and I would hold on and just swing. And I remember that feeling of being so connected to nature. I didn't grow up with any religion, but that was about as close to spirituality I could get, was being part of being outside. I was not comfortable being inside all the time. And I think we're all kind of feeling that right now with this COVID thing, how important it is to be outside. My childhood was amazing. And one of the first books that my mother ever read to me, and she read it to me every night. And in fact, she took it and she never returned it to the San Rafael Public Library. Mom, I'm sorry, but I didn't let her, I hid it from her, so she couldn't return it. It's called Peter's Long Walk. And it was a story about a little boy who could not wait to go to school. And in order to get to school, he had to walk through the forest every day until he could find to get there. And he met up with all the different animals and the plants. This sparked in my imagination more than anything. That was my childhood. Walking, observing, seeing what birds were out, what flowers were out, talking to the animals. That book really shaped me. Then there was a second book. I don't know if any of you ever read it, but it was called My Side of the Mountain by Jean Craig George. That is a book that everyone should read. And I read that when I was in probably about 5th grade. And that one really set me on my journey of wanting to be a naturalist. I didn't know I wanted to be a naturalist until just recently, but looking back, that was where I started. And that was the story about a little boy that lived in the city, and he decided that he would hop on a truck and go out in the middle of nowhere with just his backpack and some fishing line, and he was going to go live on this mountain. My side of the mountain, where he dug out of an old tree, he burned it out, and he made himself a shelter. And he lived on this mountain, and he actually came across a peregrine falcon that he trained named Frightful. This story sparked my imagination like nothing else. I wanted to be that little boy. I wanted to go live out there in the wilds. But you know, you're living in Terra Linda, and then all of a sudden your teenage years come along and hormones start in, and the magic of your youth seems to kind of take, a back seat. And so I was going along my teenage years, and the woods and the hills behind me were more like a refuge from parents, so we wouldn't get caught doing anything. But that was still our place to go, was to be up in the hills. And then about the time I was about a senior in high school, my story of being able to go out into the wilderness came true. I was a senior in high school in Terra Linda High, and we got a word that there was going to be a couple that was going to come, and they were going to teach us how to live out in the desert and cry for a vision. That was their idea. It was not a cult type of thing. It was more like bringing in rites of passage to the youth. And what they did is they took about 12 of us out into Death Valley, and they wanted us to be out there without food or just water, no food, for 3 days, alone, by ourselves. And we separated with buddies, and we didn't see each other for 3 days. And I thought that sounded pretty cool. And if you ever come up over the top of Death Valley and you first see the mountains, there's an horizon. That was the first time I'd seen big sky. I thought I'd seen big sky, but there's nothing like the big sky of Death Valley the first time you see it. And all of a sudden, I felt so small. I was going to be alone, and I was small, and I was bored. I was so bored. I thought it would be pretty cool to be alone, but after one day, there's not much to do. And by the second day, it was like just counting down the time. And we were supposed to stay up at night. And the day just dragged on, and then I found myself doing something that I'd never done before. And that was just observing. Just entertaining myself by watching a little plot of desert life. And I remember just watching the beetles walking along and messing with the sand and just observing all of the wildlife. I remember watching the sun come up and following it all day long. And this is something I'd never really done, being outside all day long, no food to eat, nothing to read. So I just observed. That was the first night that I stayed up all night. And it was the first time I saw the stars move clear across the heavens for the first time. The entire, dance across. That changed my life. I really realized that we are so small, but so important in such a big way. Well, I came back from Death Valley, and the people that led it had this adorable son who I fell in love with, and that's Keenan. He works for Sonoma County Water Agency. He's actually on the video for Fairfield Osborn Preserve. He's that dude. Fell in love with him. We've been together since we were 17. And in our 20s, we just, had to do the 20 thing. We had to make a living and working at grocery stores. And we decided we'd go back to school. And we did. We started in at JC and at College of Marin and ended up at Sonoma State. And we knew we wanted to be biologists. Well, Keenan thought he wanted to be a vet. But when he went in to be a veterinarian, the first time they had to do a neuter on a dog, he came home and said, I'm not doing that job. I want to be a botanist. And I thought, okay, that's okay. That sounds good. And I thought, well, my self-esteem was pretty low. I thought, well, maybe I'll try environmental science and planning. So I went in there and people were great. But I really kind of wanted to delve more into the plants and the animals and learn a little bit about their names. So I started in at Sonoma State and got my degree in biology with an emphasis in botany and plant ecology and all that. And it was so fun to be able to learn the names, to meet people that were interested in science. And it was a great time of our lives. But one of the best things that happened out of all that was I got pregnant with my daughter right at graduation. That was something we had really wanted. And so I kind of stepped away from academia, and I really just wanted to focus on being a mom. That was some of the best times in my life, because now I had this kid that liked to go out and wander around out in nature with me. And she could share this magic of just telling stories, and we would walk and talk about rocks and fairies and all kinds of fun stuff. And she was so engaged. And the years went on and she grew up. She actually, I was really impressed with, and I just came across this. This had also been one of my Bibles, Sharing Nature with Children. I had never really done anything. I'd been a Girl Scout leader, but still wasn't working with my degree very much. But then I realized just recently that my daughter in 3rd grade wrote a book that she had done, and it was her at Fairfield Osborn Preserve when she had gone on a docent trip. And this was her book on Sonoma County when she was in the 3rd grade. And I realized, my goodness, I guess all those walks out there with her really kind of took hold. And so that really warmed our heart when we found that again.
Patty, could you zoom in on that book? And by the way,
Yes.
Olivia is here, correct?
I was
Yes,
just going to
she
say, can you
is.
introduce her?
That's my daughter Olivia is in one of the boxes, and she is back in Boston right now working on her doctorate. And she thought that we lost this book, and we were so happy to find it. We started to almost cry because we found it up in the attic. And so Olivia wrote this. Let me see if I can share some of this.
What is it titled?
It's Discover Sonoma County. And this is her when she was 3rd grade. And she wrote this book, and it was all about being up there. And even the acknowledgments are to Fairfield Osborn. And she did a whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And
And
did,
what great. You did this as a school project, Olivia?
Yeah, one of
Talk about
my teachers, I was in it was 3rd grade, and it was like a whole semester. I don't know what in elementary school it is anymore, but it's a whole semester project that we in class would draw different parts and then write up little reports. My favorite part looking back on it is I had huge perfectionism, and all the animals I would draw at home and then paste it into the book but it was really fun, and it was such a treasure. The funniest part is my mom found out at the end I talked about wanting to be a geneticist, and that's what I'm getting my doctorate in, which is not what I was expecting.
That is amazing.
But it was really great.
Somebody asked if I could share the names of the resources and books and things in the chat, Patty, and I'm definitely going to include Olivia's book.
okay. One of the things I loved about is her parents are both botanists. Her mother does not go to work, but stays home to help out. And I love that, because that's exactly what I wanted. That's exactly what I wanted. And now she's grown, and I get to help out again. And this is what's brought me to Fairfield Osborn. I am so fortunate to be able to be a naturalist up at Fairfield Osborn. I heard about this last January, and I thought, you know what? That mountain is so important to me. That's where I did some of my first botanical surveys. It's where I walked around when I was pregnant with my daughter. It's where my husband took my daughter on Sundays before they closed it down, because the Nature Conservancy had it before. And it was where my daughter cut her teeth on botany and Turtle Pond, and walking around in the fields. And so it was really nice to go back almost 30 years later. And to be able to go back has just been such a treat. To be able, you go and you get to take classes, and you don't have to be a professional botanist or a professional at anything. You just have to have this love of learning. And I think that was what I really got the biggest kick out of, is I got into this class of naturalists. We're all about the same age, and we get out there and we walking, and it's so magical to be walking with a group of people that are just observing, and they're learning, and they're excited to be together. And we get so nerdy when we come across a scorpion or a new flower or a slender salamander, or that we do the cover boards and the Insatina pops out. These are all just things that have just brought so much to my life. And another thing that was so cool is I get to teach again. I love kids. Kids to me are, they're some of my favorite humans, because they remind us how to be kids again ourselves. They have a way of looking at the natural world that teaches us how to look at it again with fresh eyes. And so I now get to be Porcupine Patty. We got to do our own nature names. And I lamented, I didn't know what I was going to be called, but this is the one that stuck. And I got my porcupine quills, so put my porcupine hat on. And now when I go
hold
out,
up your badge again, I want to see your name tag.
Porcupine Patty. To be able to go back and name yourself an animal, I mean, that's just pretty cool. So I started working with the kids up there, and it has brought so much joy to my life. But I want to tell you about first one thing I want to tell you about this mountain. I'm jumping around, and I'm excited. One of the things I've learned about this mountain is that I always thought Mount Tam was always my mountain. I grew up in Marin. Mount Tam was my mountain. It just jutted out. It said, I'm here, see me. I'm in the middle of everything. Everybody knew about Mount Tam. And I got up here in Sonoma County, and I was living up here underneath Sonoma Mountain. I never really gave it much thought. And it's kind of a quiet mountain. It's kind of a mountain without an ego. It doesn't really shout out a lot of "see me," even though it's there. But that Sonoma Mountain is only 100 feet shorter than Mount Tam. Only 100 feet shorter. We don't realize that until you get up there. When you get up on Fairfield Osborn Preserve, it's pretty amazing space because it's not, you have so many different environments. You've got conifer forest, you've got oak woodlands, you've got grasslands, you've got ponds, you've got waterfalls, you've got pathways that have not been trampled down because there's been hordes of people up there. There's signs of wildlife. There's so much wildlife that when we're walking the pathways and we're coming across, we almost can see that the coyotes and the foxes, and they're all talking to each other because they leave little bits of scat. And we know that they've met there the night before. We're kind of in their territory, and it's such a wonderful feeling to be able to be up there. When you walk up to it's not past Turtle Pond. It's the one with what's the red one? The Zola
Kelly Pond?
Kelly Pond. Now, I always went south, and I always hung out the very bottom part, and I never went to the top in all those years that I was doing botanical work. But just recently, I went up to the top. And you talk about that horizon feeling that I got from Death Valley. It's the same feeling I got again for the first time in a long time. You walk up through Kelly Pond. It's this pond that's red, and it's red because it's full of water for an azala. And it's kind of surrealistic because it's so red and you're at the very top. And if you creep up really quietly, you can find, the birds up there. You all know to be quiet when you walk up there because you're going to see all these birds and wildlife. But this time, I decided to walk up even further, past Kelly Pond, up the hill. And I'm like, okay, it's going to be just a little walk up the hill, probably no big deal. But when you get to the top of that hill, it is an oh my God moment. At the top of that hill, you can see on a clear day the Sierra. You can see Mount Lassen. You can see the ocean. It is one of those top places that is so amazing. We think of Mount Tam all the time, but even Sonoma Mountain has better clarity up there. It's mind-boggling. It's inspiring. Another thing about walking up on that preserve that is so cool is we were up there in January. We had lots of rain. And when it's raining up at Fairfield Osborn, it is absolutely magical. The rock walls are just emerald green. Everything's dripping. You see all the new buds coming up. The new, you know that the flowers are coming up. The ferns are exploding. And then you've got rivulets, water coming down everywhere. And that was when it finally dawned upon me. I've been living at the base of that mountain for 27 years, and I haven't really been paying that much attention to it. I've been walking Copeland Creek. I've looked for tadpoles in Copeland Creek. I've walked through Copeland Creek that goes through the university, but it never dawned upon me that water was coming from that mountain and how important that mountain is for our watershed. A lot of those creeks go right down through Roanoke Park into Cotati, goes into the Laguna, heads out to the ocean. But there are creeks on that mountain that head down to San Francisco Bay. There are some creeks that head down to Glen Ellen. This mountain is full of so many surprises that it's a treasure to be able to be up there and to be able to now take friends up and show them this treasure. I'm just so grateful to the Great Rancheria Indians because what they've done is they've made it so this natural program, I believe, go through by helping us train this so all the kids can come up. We now have elementary school kids that come up once a week, well, before the COVID thing, and we could take the kids out. It's so important to get kids out into nature. one of the things that happened this last time, one of my favorite experiences I had, and it harkened back to my vision quest, of my own vision quest, is I had 6 third grade boys. It was my first time soloing with kids, and I got 6 third grade boys. And it was awesome. They were so cute. They were so fun. They were so excited. They couldn't wait to dip nets. They couldn't wait to do cover boards. But the most important thing that those kids found was we did something called a solo walk. Solo walks are something that most kids can't do nowadays. We have to keep them safe, and we understand that. But kids need to be alone in nature too. That is when you find the observation, just like I did in the desert. That's when they are not listening to their friends. It's when they take the time to be alone. And what we did in a solo walk is I took the 6 boys and I separated them. I sent one adult ahead, way ahead, down the trail. And I sent each kid by themselves down the trail. They were going to be just fine. Am I going to get lost? No, you're not going to get lost. You know the trail. You're just going to walk slowly, and I want you to be by yourself. They were so scared. They had never done that before. But they were excited. They were scared and excited. And I will never forget the feeling of just, I can't believe they're letting me walk alone. I can't believe they're letting me walk alone. And so the last kid left. I watched them all take off and separated them up. And after I got to the end of them, one of the little boys came up and said, that was the most amazing thing I've ever done. That is just the most amazing. I heard things I'd never heard before. I listened, I smelled things I'd never smelled before. I can do it by myself. You know, that's what I love being a naturalist. It's showing children how to enjoy being outside, to give them confidence to be by themselves, but safe, and with buddies, with the buddy system, but still, that they don't have to be around their video games, that they can find nature to be exciting and enjoyable. And that's what I hope to be able to continue to do in this program. And I just really want to thank, Suzanne and Julie and Carrie for providing this opportunity for us to be able to do this. We're all connected, we all have a mountain, and it's all important for everybody to find their mountain and to find that connection to nature, because we all are feeling this disconnect in nature right now. And if I can inspire you to go out today even and find a foot-by-foot plot of land and lie down on your stomach and look around in the grass and see what kind of bugs you can find and what's coming up, and that gives you 5 minutes of peace, then this talk has been worth it. Thank you. This has been a wonderful experience. And if you have any questions, I really would like to be able to help anyone become a naturalist. And it's been a wonderful experience.
We're so lucky to have you, Patty.
Yes, definitely.
Mhm.
The kids are lucky to have you, Patty.
Yes.
Oh, I like the applause. Everyone's putting their little clapping symbols up on the screen.
I got to see my daughter over there. There's my daughter. Hi, Olivia.
Well, somebody made a comment in the chat box that I was wondering if they might say out loud. But if not, then I could read it. Okay, I'll go ahead. It's just a great comment. Somebody wrote, my living room window looks out to Sonoma Mountain, and that's why I bought my house. I have to ask across the street neighbor to trim their hedge so I can see the mountain better. And it's funny, I live actually in Marin County, and when I rent an apartment, and when I first rented this place, we could see Mount Tam. And then some trees got cut and grew, and things have shifted, and I can no longer see the mountain because there are some things blocking it. And I feel that lack of connection. So it's, just even having to go out and around to see the mountain, it's really powerful to be able to wake up and see that force.
And when I was growing up in Terra Linda, and the thing is, the whole idea is that you would climb the hills in order to get a peek at the top of Mount Tam. That was like the connection part, you know. Now I find myself every single time I go outside, I'm looking for Sonoma Mountain every day. I've got to, that's my place, you know, that's my place. And I also, I have two poems that I'd like to share with you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
This, one of the poems I got from a friend that sent this to me, and I thought it was very, very, very appropriate. It's a John Muir poem. And it's, thousands of tired, nerve-shaken, over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home. That wildness is a necessity, and that mountain parks and reservations are useful not only as fountains of timber and irrigating rivers, but as fountains of life. And that is what these preserves are. They're so important for so many different reasons. They're gathering places of like minds, teaching places. They're corridors for animals to be able to live in. They are, you know, patches of wildness that we all need. And we're very lucky. And I also have one more that I'd like to read.
Patty,
And
what was the name of that first poem?
This was one it was by John Muir. It was just a quote.
Oh, just a quote, okay.
It was a quote. Mm-hmm. And I just thought it was just perfect. Yeah. And this one sums up what it's like to be a naturalist. On Fridays, the Naturalist, it's been really a bummer for the SSU kids. I mean, my heart has really gone out to them because they were going along, and then all of a sudden they were about to be able to start taking kids out themselves, and this COVID hit, and they had to, you know, leave to go home. They lost their connection to school and everything that was going on. But on Fridays, we have a Zoom meeting where all the kids naturalists get together. And last week, I believe it was last week, we wrote Suzanne had done this wonderful presentation on the importance of being outside. And afterwards, we were all kind of lamenting, it's kind of sad that we're not outside. As we can go to parks, a few parks, we can take walks with our dogs, but it's not like we can go to the beach. It's not like we can just go anywhere. So we did a poem, a group poem. And I thought this group poem kind of summed up everything, what it feels like to be a naturalist, what it is to be a group naturalist, what it's like to be with these people up at Fairfield, Osborn, and Sonoma State, and the kind of support that we get from them. So this is it, and I love this poem. This is a group poem. Rain and sun sharing space and time. Under the Douglas firs, the purple irises are blooming. Sleeping Beauty is paused in a surreal dream. No fear, my dear, we will wake up on a flowering meadow again. The sounds of laughter and silence and the thrill of seeing the first spring flower echo in the mind. I long to feel the ocean embrace me in a sweet mist while the waves swiftly graze my toes like sweet kiss. Is that a raven or a crow? On the mountain, the air blows clean and fills our lungs with hope. Beautiful flowers blooming all around. Solitude prevails as we shelter in place. Only the wild roams free. Rufous hummingbirds are my new best friend. You're welcome for this sweet juice. Nature is healing, the way it makes us laugh or smile, and rain-laden clouds make way for blue sky and mountaintop awe. I hope you join us at Fairfield Osborn.
That's just amazing, you guys.
They did a good job.
That's particularly apropos right now in the stay-at-home orders.
Yeah.
So I do have a few people talking in the chat box. So one person is asking, how does a guy like me get to experience the preserve? And well, it's a little bit more challenging at this particular time, but usually there's a few ways to do it actually. If you want to get in, like I said in the beginning, there's all these different ways to engage with us on a little bit of a deeper level. I'm happy to repeat those, but you can also just come on one of our hikes. We have natural history hikes typically on Saturdays at the end of each semester. Unfortunately, can't do that right now. There's also, you can engage in research. And I put that in quotes because some people don't quite understand what that means. They think of it as a long-term scientific project, but it's actually a lot more flexible than that. And Suzanne, who also has something else she'd like to say, maybe at the same time can tell you a little bit more about that.
Should I go ahead,
Yeah.
Carrie? Okay, great. So yes, I'm so glad you asked that question because I think that maybe other folks might be thinking the same thing. As Carrie mentioned right at the beginning, we really want to empower people to do environmental inquiry, and that can include scientific research. But like Patty was saying, it can also be close observation, art. That is a type of environmental inquiry. So doing independent inquiry at the preserves is absolutely possible. I'm basically the person that you would touch base with about that. And also, as Carrie mentioned, right now, obviously things are in the digital realm while we're sheltering in place, but when we're moving back into being able to be out on the land together, Carrie has my information. It's very easy to find my information on the SSU website, and I'm always happy to talk to people about doing independent projects. However, I'd like to put in a plug for the Naturalist program, because if you are at all interested and able to join us for, basically it's just 4 weekend days at the Osborn Preserve at certain times of year. You get to learn everything that Patty was talking about. You get to go out in the field with your fellow naturalists, with experienced community member naturalists like Bob Long and John Lynch, who also have so much information, and get to go with Julie, who is, incredibly knowledgeable. And then once you finish that, we want you to bring people to the preserve to, share the place with them. So that gives you a bit more latitude for access as well. We do, ask our naturalists to, of course, lead tours and, share their knowledge with others. But that's another way that you can come up to the preserve. And then, as Carrie mentioned also, in, more usual times, these types of events, like what we're doing now, would be at one of the preserves. So you would just sign up, register like you just did, and then show up and learn about flowers, or, talk to a naturalist like we did today, or any of those types of things.
And then actually Julie mentioned something in the chat that I should have said. So how can you experience the preserve was the way that the question was worded. And it's actually a really great way to word it, because right now, even in this virtual space, you can go on virtual tours. Suzanne has created a very interesting way of doing that, where she filmed herself at different locations talking about different features of the preserve. So you can actually go to our website, and there's a map, and you can kind of guide yourself around the map, choose a place you want to look at, sit down, see 360-degree photos of that spot, and then hear Suzanne talk about that spot. So it's really cool. So that's a way to experience the preserve, even if you can't get there right now. So thanks, Julie, for remembering to point that out.
Yeah, my pleasure. I also wanted to just share with folks our iNaturalist project for example, for Osborn Preserve. You could see John Lynch had uploaded some lovely recent wildflower photos, amazing. So I just shared that link to our project. So for folks that are able to access the preserve for independent research and whatnot right now, and do contribute to our online project, iNaturalist project, you can see John's and a couple other folks, lovely recent photos of mostly wildflowers right now, and some amphibians.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. And even if you are not an amazing photographer like that, you can still contribute to the iNaturalist project, because it still helps just to be able to track what's there and when it's there and what it looks like, even if it's not the most beautiful picture. And there was one other question about the program, like the Community Naturalist program. Somebody said, does it happen at other times because it didn't quite fit their schedule? And I think that's just really good input for us to have. So if anybody's having that kind of experience, just email one of us directly and let us know like what's not matching up, because if we get enough people, who knows what we can do. We really want to create this as something that's accessible to a lot of people. So I know a couple people have their hands raised, which is a very polite way of doing it on Zoom, and I didn't actually notice you right away. I'm so sorry it's taken me this long. I'm still getting used to things. So Meg, I believe your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you. Patty, first of all, thank you for your wonderful enthusiasm. Several of us are part of Sonoma Mountain Preservation, and you speak from our hearts as well as yours. So it was really great to hear you. And I wanted to tell everybody who doesn't know, 2 years ago, we published a book about Sonoma Mountain that talks about the three watersheds and the thank you, I don't have it here. The geology and the just everything about the mountain, the whole ecology, the people, the animals, the plants. And we did it exactly for the reason that Patty's talking about, because we all love the mountain, and we knew that there's lots of people around who just even don't notice it or take it for granted. So for those of you who, this is not the greatest time, but there's several access places, public access places. Crane Creek is one, Jack London State Park is one, the North Slope Regional Trail is one, Sonoma Developmental Center, although it's closed as well right now, and something called the East Slope Trail that connects into Jack London. And then there's a beautiful, beautiful wildflower preserve, Van Hoosier Wildflower Preserve on the Sonoma side of the mountain that's only open in the spring, but it has just this amazing collection. Anyway, I just wanted to appreciate you. Thank you.
And Meg, can we get that information about those trails at sonomamountain.org?
Yes.
So we've also put that website in the chat so that you guys can take a look at that as well, because we're just also so thankful to have neighbors like you, Meg, that are doing such amazing things on the mountain. So thanks for coming today.
And this is the book she's talking about, Meg's book.
In that book, it looks like it's accessible through the sonomamountain.org website as well.
Yes.
And we also have a copy of it in our Osborn Education Center. So once you're able to access Osborn again, and the Ed Center is available for folks to join, you can check out our copy as well.
Also order it through Copperfields and Reader's Books in Sonoma, and they'll mail it to you. But if you order it through our website, we'll mail it to you directly. And yeah.
Can we order Olivia's book?
I'm gonna have to do something about that one.
I know.
I mean, for a third grader, I'm not convinced. She must be older.
No, this is so funny. That's what I actually wrote about that I had parents tell that I got like arguments. They thought that I did the drawings. This was her drawings in third grade in writing. I did nothing.
Wow.
This was her work that she did, and she was also worked at Bouvier. She was asked to be a docent, a new docent at Bouvier. So,
well, too appropriate segue that Olivia actually just typed that she has a question. So, Olivia, why don't you go ahead?
No, I have a question. Because I think this is appropriate for everyone having the stay-at-home orders with COVID, but I think it's also appropriate for just when you're away from the natural environment that you grow up in. So I live in Boston now, Mom, as you know, or Patty, that's weird calling you Patty. And I was curious if you have any suggestions for how to kind of maintain or reclaim some of the naturalism of your childhood when you are no longer in the environment. So like I can't go to Sonoma Mountain. I don't have those magical places of my childhood to go to. And what would you recommend? How do you I think that you've had more experience in naturalism and refinding it. So just like, what do you do? Or like, is there ways to take that little bit and bring it with you? I don't know. It was like
You know, I have never lived further than, 35 miles from the place I was born. So I've lived on the shadow of Mount Tam and the shadow of Sonoma Mountain are the two places. One of the things I think that I can try and help is the next time I go up there, I'm going to have to do some FaceTiming with you at the top.
Yeah.
And we'll have to have a little conversation and we can, and I will show you what I'm looking at. We can look at it
That'd
together.
Be wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's an interesting situation. I got to study overseas for a while. Thanks, Mom. In New Zealand. And the Maori tradition is that when you introduce yourself, and we studied with in the Morais, you introduce what mountain you're from, because that's a big part of their culture. And so this really resonated with me as a discussion of this kind of reclamation of the kind of indigenous ways of knowing.
Right.
So that was really cool. Yeah.
I think a lot of people
I thought Patty was going to say, move back home.
I think that maybe Patricia has a comment on this.
So, Olivia, my suggestion is you become a child in your new surroundings. So in Boston, it has its own bugs and own plants. So you just become a new child in Boston, as opposed to bringing the old childhood, develop a new childhood. That's
beautifully.
That's beautiful.
I've lived all over the country. I mean, I'm a fourth generation Californian, but I've lived all over the country. And so I always had to find out what was there while I was there. So that's my.
Yeah. No, that's really great to.
If other people have ideas about this, if anyone who did write in the chat about this wants to say it out loud, feel free and do that.
I think I just unmuted myself. I'm Christopher. Hello. Olivia, I grew up in rural Virginia and spent my childhood just always out in the fields and the marshes. It was a coastal. And then from 20 until I was 40, I lived in New York City and then San Francisco, which are, especially New York, obviously very dense. But I became really fascinated with urban ecology and sort of cosmopolitan species and all the interactions that you find in those incredibly, not necessarily diverse because they become a little more homogenous, but still very rich in their own way and fascinating ecosystems. So that was kind of a blast to explore that. Now I'm in Santa Rosa and I spend a lot of time in Sonoma Mountain. I'm much happier, but I still really like those ecosystems, and I found them pretty exciting in their own way.
Thank you for sharing. And I think Meg had something to say about that too.
Yeah, Olivia, I wrote it in the chat, but this actually happened because my mother went blind, and I thought, for macular degeneration, I thought, if I go blind, how am I going to stay in touch with all the mountains I love? So I started visualizing them, and it's very specific. I'll take myself to Mount Diablo, which was my birth mountain, and I'll walk the hikes that I've done, and I'll see specific places that I love. And I do that on Sonoma Mountain, and I do it on Mount Tam. And I really learned that whole process. I spent a lot of time in the Andes, and everybody is connecting with the mountains all the time in the high mountains. So it's, it just sort of became a natural thing. And it's been really, of course, satisfying during this time when I couldn't walk every place. I can still go there in my mind's eye or in meditation. So try it out. It's really fun.
These are wonderful suggestions. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
There's two more. You started an amazing conversation, Olivia. One person just wrote, lots of houseplants. And I mean, truly though, there is something about that living organism, right? With the oxygen, carbon dioxide, a human. It's not the same, but there's something to that too, right? So I know that Suzanne has thoughts as well. If you want to share those, Suzanne?
Yes, and actually a lot of people already covered, so if it's okay, I'll share just a couple of my thoughts, and then if I could ask another question to Patty. I wanted to say that Edward Abbey called himself a geographic chauvinist, and I can identify with that because I grew up in the West and actually then spent about 8 years in the East, on the East Coast, working for the Nature Conservancy and going to graduate school. That's where I did my graduate work. And I was surprised at how many little places I was just able to find, especially if you were willing to go in rain, ski, or go on water. Then I was just shocked at how many beautiful experiences I had in salt marshes and on rivers and, just small little parks that I'm sure were just packed in the summer. But if you got out there and skis on the winter, it was just, you were just by yourself, and could see so many, anyway, I had some wonderful experiences that tempered my geographic chauvinism a bit.
Yeah, I definitely suffer from that. Being my husband's from Montana as well, and so we have a nice western bread.
But I wanted to ask Patty, I hope this is okay that I mention this. We actually have a couple of SSU student naturalists who, for those who know about how everything has gone this semester, we got through training and the students were so excited to start, leading kids on tours of the Osborn Preserve. And in fact, Jessica was going to bring her class before all this happened. So
I'm going to call you.
Yes, we'll talk about how that's going to work in the future. But anyway, Patty, I wondered if you could say anything to our SSU student naturalists about, just about your experience, because they didn't get a chance to do the tour part yet. Any kind of tips or advice you'd give to people who might be feeling nervous or now I didn't get to lead tours this semester, I have to wait till a future season. What were some things that you would have wanted to know before you led your first tour, or even just words of reassurance?
I think one of the best things I got was being able to go out with a couple of, professional tour people. I went out with a few of them that were just unbelievably knew how to do it. Hanging out with Bob, he, taught me how to just kind of go with the flow with the kids, to just enjoy them, just teach. I was really nervous the first time I went out. By the second time I went out, I realized the kids were just excited. And if you can just get them, just walk around. And if you get excited about something, they're going to get excited about it. That's all you have to do. If you are showing this passion and wonder and love and excitement, they're going to get it. They can't help it. It just wears off on them. It's all about how you do the magic of it. And there's nothing to worry about, because the kids they're excited to be out there. They want to be out there. They want to learn. So just be yourself and go for it and enjoy just teaching. Yeah.
Can I add one more thing for Olivia? So I work with third graders, and I was thinking, we were planning to do all this stuff outside this last couple months. And so how could we get into that? And my son started watching this 24/7 webcam of an eagle pair in a nest in Big Bear Valley, which is near Mount Baldy. And just to have that on your screen, just watching these birds, hearing the wind blow through the trees, the screeching of the communication between the female and the male switching to cover the eggs. And then also I explored the webcam for the sea otters down at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and just being able to delight in their communication with each other. Stuff like that. It just, it's that you get to observe it and hear all the sounds and of what's going on there. Anyway, just potentially exploring different webcams around the country that may speak to you.
Absolutely.
They're all over the world right now. If you go online and search for, zoos and sanctuaries and gardens. There's just so many live webcams. I think there's one actually really close to my house at the Marin Art and Garden Center. There's just so many of them, and it is a great way to connect right now. Thank you for that idea.
Yeah.
And I do think that when you are teaching kids, the main thing is just they know that as long as they know you like them, and that there's human beings and they've got a voice, and honor that they're excited, and honor that they're curious, and honor the magic of what's going on. And you become a kid yourself, a guide, but just a big guide kid. And the only thing you need to do is keep them safe and let them just explore. It comes naturally. And just have faith in yourself that when you're out there with kids, as long as you like them and you're excited about your subject, you have nothing to worry about. You just absolutely nothing to worry about. The nature kind of teaches all of us at the same time, and allow it to.
Well, guys, we are over the hour. Amazingly, there's just more and more to be said. And I do encourage you to all to take a look at the group chat. I mean, there have been so many wonderful things people have contributed here, websites and books and ideas. We just got another one, Sonoma Mountain at alertwildfire.org/North Bay, all sorts of great things. So I am going to send out a post-event email, and I will try and capture some of that. And if Patty, if you could stay on just a little longer, I wanted to get the name of those first 2 books that you read from that I didn't get the name of. But just really quick, I want to let you guys know about a few other things that are coming up that you might be interested in, because this is just one of dozens of events that we're doing this spring virtually, which we just have the whirlwind of activity, and we're just so happy to bring this to you. So tomorrow is a really exciting citizen science event. So the reason this one is just so exciting to me is because of Earth Week and how this is so related. It's called Climate Change and Personal Action. And this is led by our own nature tech lead, Dr. Chris Hawley. So he's never led a public event, and I twisted his arm and we got him to speak. So I'm just very excited that he's going to be doing this. And it includes the use of an app called I See Change that you can use on your phone. And it just gives a whole bunch of different easy ways of you, as you're going out in nature, to record things that can help track climate change. So some of them are pretty similar to iNaturalist, but some of them are very different, looking at clouds or bodies of water or different things like that. So that's tomorrow, and you can find all of these events on our website, cei.sonoma.edu/calendar. The day after that kicks off our Sudden Oak Death Blitz weekend. So sudden oak death is an invasive tree disease that you probably know about because it's very prevalent in Sonoma County. And once a year, there's an event out of UC Berkeley, a Blitz, that allows residents to test their trees for free. And it only tests bay laurel and tan oak, which are carrier species. You can't directly test your oak trees, but it's actually really a good way to do it because then you can do something about it before your oaks might get infected. So it's the one time a year you can test them for free, and we did adapt it for the shelter in place and COVID-19. So if you have any trees that you want to get tested, again, go to the center website and there is a link there. I also happen to be the coordinator for the Sudden Oak Death program with UCCE Sonoma, so I personally know a lot about that program, and you can ask me questions if you have them. We can no longer mail you the collection packets for the leaves, but you can come pick them up this weekend at the UCCE office, which is in Santa Rosa off Airport Boulevard. We'll be open 2 hours Saturday and 2 hours Sunday for you to come pick those up, and then you can mail them in for free because it's postage page and all of that. And then a week from today,
Wait,
from a naturalist.
You need to give us the address.
So you can go. Yeah, so it's actually pretty detailed. So you have to go through a little bit of an online training and register, and then you'll get the address because we want to make sure people are ready and informed and do it the right way. But if you want, Nancy, it looks like I can, if you want to email me, or I can give you more info, but there is most of it written down at the website there. But yes, we'd love to get you involved. And then a week from today is our next Learn from a Naturalist event, kind of similar to this one, except we're taking it in a different direction. And it's going to be about doing activities that you can build shelter for wildlife during shelter in place. And this one's going to be by one of our past employees who now works for Nature Conservancy, actually all the way in New York, but because it's a virtual event, he can lead an event. So it's very exciting. Kevin Monroe is coming, and we're going to learn how to make like a simple bird feeder and how to attract wildlife to your garden. So that's going to be really fun. And then next Monday is a very different but equally exciting event. And it's a deep dive event, which means that it's a little bit more rigorous and focused, kind of more like a lecture or a colloquium you might see from one of the academic subjects. And this one is by exuberant Professor Wendy St. John, who works both with geography, environmental planning, and the biology department. And she just is such a captivating presenter at talking about her graduate research, which was on Western pond turtles. So the name of the event is Nesting Behavior in the Western Pond Turtle. And she shows these adorable pictures of baby turtles that she helped rear. And it's just a really fun one. I've seen this talk before. So there are more than that, but that's just a little preview of the kinds of things we have coming up. You can always contact me with questions. And I think we already talked about the Community Naturalist program and the Naturalist training program, which is geared more towards students. But if you have any questions about those or comments, feel free to contact me, Suzanne, Julie. And then if there's anything you want to say about this particular event, comments, questions, more info you want, we are definitely open to hearing that, and we want your feedback. So I feel more empowered and connected. Like I actually am sitting here going, I'm finding a way. I'm finding a way to get to nature today, right? Like before, I've been satisfied in my garden and going just around where we take my dog. I'm like, nope, I'm going to find a way to get there. I'm going to bicycle, whatever it takes, because you have inspired me, Patty. Again, thank you for bringing that back when I can't actually get to Sonoma Mountain at the moment. And I've just had such a great day. I hope you all do feel a little bit more empowered and centered and inspired. And Patty, I'm just so thankful, really.
I thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and it was really quite an honor, and I will always remember this. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Porcupine Patty. That was awesome.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you for everything.
Can I share my view with you?
Please.
There's your Sonoma Mountain.
Will you angle it down just a little bit for us? There we go.
There it is.
Oh, okay. All right. I got to get a picture of that.
That's our mountain.
So glad.
I bought my house.
Thanks for sharing.
I don't mind sheltering in place.
I do. My outside.
Well, I do have to leave pretty soon. So Patty, I'm going to ask the names of the books that you originally started with. Can you tell me those?
Yes. Peter's Long Walk.
Okay. And who's that by?
Lee Kingman.
Kingman. All right.
The classic, my favorite. Then it was My Side of the Mountain by Jean Craighead George, I believe. Jean Craighead George. Yeah, My Side of the Mountain.
And is Jean Jean?
Jean, yeah.
Great.
Classic.
Wonderful. And if you think
And
of
then
any other
Discover Sonoma County by Olivia Foster.
Oh, I have that one. If you think of any other resources you want me to send out, Patty, to people, just let me know and I'll get that out in an email tomorrow.
This one, yeah, everyone should have this.
I did get that one. I don't know if I got the author though.
Sharing Nature with Children with Joseph Cornell.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's the original.
Wow. Oh, I don't have.
And I was so thrilled that she was on here. The author of the book was on here.
Yeah.
So awesome. I love this book.
All right. Well, I have to take off, and I just hope that everybody enjoys the fantastic rest of their week. Stay connected to the mountain and each other. And I will hope to see you all very soon.
Okay.
Goodbye. Thank you so much,
Good
Patty.
job, Patty. Rocked it.
Bye.
Great job, Mom.
Bye.
Bye.